Generally, phase shift beta is equals to 2 pi by lambda g. So from that formula, if you consider the relation between beta and lambda g, then it is going to be an inverse proportional. That means if lambda g is decreasing, then beta, that is nothing but the phase shift or the phase constant, is going to be increased, and the reverse of that. So as I told you, the amount of phase shift that the phase shifters can introduce can be either fixed or it can be variable. And now we'll see what kind of parameters will cause the variable amount of phase shift and the fixed amount of phase shift. So if the magnitude of the lambda g, if the magnitude of lambda g is changed, then the beta is going to be changed. So here you can consider this as a variable phase shift. So you can obtain a variable phase shift by changing the value of lambda g. And in the same manner, the fixed amount of phase shift can be obtained by making use of capacitive or the inductive irises. These are the irises are the one kind of waveguide discontinuities that we have seen in the last class. So by making use of capacitive irises or the inductive irises, you can get the fixed amount of phase shift. That is the one way of getting the fixed amount of phase shift. And the another way of getting the fixed amount of phase shift is by inserting a dielectric rods across the diameter of the circular waveguide. That means you are all well known with what exactly a dielectric means. Dielectric is nothing but an insulator, right? So by introducing an insulator or the dielectric rod across the circular waveguide, by doing that also we can get a fixed amount of phase shift. And the third case is that by reducing the dimension of the rectangular waveguide. In case of circular waveguide, you can get the fixed amount of phase shift by introducing the dielectric rod, and in case of rectangular waveguide, you can get the fixed amount of phase shift by reducing the dimensions of the rectangular waveguide. And irrespective of whether it is a circular waveguide or whether it is a rectangular waveguide, you can get the fixed amount of phase shift when you introduce the capacitive or the inductive irises. So by these three, by making use of either the irises or by introducing the dielectric rod or by decreasing the dimensions of the rectangular waveguide, you can get the fixed amount of phase shift. And by varying the guide wavelength, that is nothing but a lambda g, you can get the variable amount of phase shift. Where these are all very useful phase shifters in the equipment which I have listed in just now, wherein which antenna, this word phase it. So in this phase array antennas, these the phase shifters will be playing a very crucial role. So the phase shifters which use ferrites, we have seen ferrite devices, right, for isolator, gyrator and the circulators. All these microwave components, they are all made up of ferrite devices. So if phase shifters are also made up of ferrites in their construction, then they are called as non-reciprocal phase shifters. And if the phase shifters they are made with some other material other than the ferrites, then they are called as reciprocal phase shifters. Phase shifters which are made up of ferrite, they are called as non-reciprocal, and the phase shifters which are made up of other than the ferrite, they are called as reciprocal phase shifters. So the phase shift that can be given to a wave of dominant mode. We have dominant mode. In TE mode, the dominant mode is TE10, whereas in TM mode, the dominant mode is TM11. We have seen this in the first unit modes TE10, TE11, TE01, like that. So in transverse electric field, TE10 is the dominant mode, and in transverse magnetic field, TM11 is the dominant mode. So if you are passing a microwave with a dominant mode, then in that case you can give a beta, that is nothing but the phase shift beta is equals to 2 pi by lambda g, whereas lambda g is nothing but the lambda naught by under root of er minus of 2b whole square. So these are the formulas which we use when we are passing on a microwave of dominant modes. So the phase shifters, there is a basic classification of these phase shifters. There exist two types of phase shifters. One is the dielectric phase shifter and another one is the rotary phase shifter. And now we'll look into the dielectric phase shifter. I'll just share you the screen. You just tell me whether it is visible for you or not. Can you see the screen, ma? Guys, can you please give the response?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
We can
Yeah.
see the screen.
Thank you, ma'am. So this is the dielectric phase shifter, where the outer part, whatever you can see in the form of 3D dimension, that is the rectangular waveguide. So into this rectangular waveguide, I'm going to introduce a dielectric rod. So this is the dielectric rod. If you observe this dielectric rod, this end and this end, they are tapered in the sense they were narrower. So when you are introducing this particular dielectric into this rectangular waveguide, as I told you, by introducing a dielectric into the rectangular wave, I mean into the circular waveguide and into the rectangular waveguide, we can get some amount of phase shift. So here, while you are introducing your dielectric into the waveguide, you need to keep one thing in your mind, that this dielectric should be introduced in such a way that within this rectangular waveguide, wherever the electric field is maximum, electric field can be maximum at all points, and it cannot be maximum at all the dimensions of this waveguide, right? So you need to introduce this dielectric into this waveguide at a point where the electric field is maximum. So when you introduce your dielectric at a maximum electric field, then you are going to get a amount of phase shift, and that phase shift can be increased. That means that phase shift can be varied if you keep on inserting this dielectric material completely into this particular waveguide. Say for example, here up to this part, that means 3/4 of the dielectric is introduced at this particular point, by imagining that at this particular point the maximum electric field can be obtained. So as you are introducing dielectric at this maximum electric field, you will be getting a phase shift of beta, and that in the you are getting beta for insertion of 3/4. If you are completely inserting, that means if the penetration, the depth of the penetration of this particular dielectric is completely inserted, then in that case you are going to get the maximum phase shift. So here you can conclude that if the depth of penetration of dielectric material, if the depth of penetration of dielectric material is increasing, then the phase shift will also increases. So that is about the dielectric phase shifter. And here the thing that you need to remember is, wherever you are inserting your dielectric phase shifter within the waveguide, you need to make sure that at that particular point the electric field should be maximum. So that is about the dielectric phase shifter. And the next type that we have is rotary vane phase shifter. The second type that we have is rotary vane phase shifter. Screen of that particular diagram. Can you see the screen, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this is the diagram for rotary vane phase shifter. We also have a rotary vane attenuator. That particular diagram and this diagram, they are very similar. So this is the rotary vane phase shifter. So the name itself is saying that here we are going to make use of rotatable waveguides, and the waveguides that we are considering is of circular waveguides. So this entire diagram, it consists of two important parts. First part is these two. If you observe these two, they are fixed circular waveguides. This one and this one, these two are fixed circular waveguides, and the middle one is the rotatable waveguide. These two are the fixed circular waveguides, and the middle one is a rotatable circular waveguide. So whatever the dotted area that you can see in this circular waveguides, that is nothing but you can consider it as a dielectric, or you can call it as a plate also, or you can simply call it as a dielectric plate. That dashed part that you can observe within this circulators, that is nothing but the dielectric plate. If you observe these two, these are the fixed circulator waveguides, right? Circle type of waveguides. So these two, if you observe this one and this one, you can clearly say one thing, that this dielectric plate of fixed circular waveguide, it is making a phase shift of 45 degrees to the horizontal line. To the horizontal line, I'm repeating this once again. The dielectric plate of fixed circular waveguide makes an angle of 45 degrees with respect to the horizontal line, this one and this one. And if you observe the middle one, here it is also making an angle of theta m. It is also making an angle of theta m, and we can call this fixed circular waveguides as fixed quarter wave plate, and this one as we can call it as rotatable half wave plate. This is a quarter wave plate and this is a half wave plate. So that is about the brief description of the construction. Two fixed circular waveguides and one rotatable circular waveguides are used in the construction of rotary vane phase shifters. The two fixed circular waveguides, they will be internally having a phase shift of 45 degrees, and that phase shift is made by the dielectric plate which is there in its internal construction. And this one, the middle one, that is nothing but the rotatable circular waveguide, will be producing a phase shift of theta m. So before we move on to the operation, here we need to remember these key points. What are those key points means? When you are sending an electric wave or a magnetic wave, whenever that wave enters through this particular fixed circular waveguide, how exactly the phase shift is going to be, and when it passes on through the rotatable waveguide, how the phase shift will be. Those two are the very important points based on which the entire operation is going to be explained. So you see this, when an electric field vector, when it is perpendicular to this particular fixed quarter wave plate, you are passing an electric field vector. That means you are passing a microwave with an electric field, and assume that when it reaches to this particular circular waveguide, if that electric field vector is perpendicular, if the electric field is perpendicular to this fixed waveguide, then this particular waveguide is going to add up a 90 degrees of phase shift. You are passing on a microwave with an electric field vector E, and from this circular waveguide you have passed on that particular microwave signal, and that microwave signal has reached here. That means now that microwave signal is entering into this particular fixed waveguide. So when it enters and when it comes out of this particular fixed waveguide, then it is going to have a phase shift of 90 degrees. Initially the wave is said to have a phase shift of beta d, and soon after when it passes and comes out of this first fixed type of waveguide, then it is said to have a 90-degree phase shift if that electric field vector is parallel. If that electric field vector is parallel, if that electric field vector is perpendicular to this particular dielectric plate, then the wave is not going to have any kind of phase shift. Soon after coming to here, the while wave is entering into this particular waveguide, if that wave is entering perpendicularly to this particular waveguide, then the wave is not going to have any kind of phase shift. But if the wave is entering in parallel, the wave is entering in parallel to this particular fixed waveguide, then the wave is going to have a phase shift of 90 degrees. And already it is having a phase shift of beta d, and when it passes on and comes out of this particular fixed waveguide, then it can result in two forms. One form is that if it is a parallel thing, then it is going to add up a phase shift of 90 degrees plus theta m. It is going to add up a phase shift of 90 degrees plus theta m. And if the wave is passing through this particular waveguide in perpendicular manner, then it is going to have only beta d plus theta m. This 90 degrees is not introduced because whenever the wave is perpendicular, then it is not going to show produce any phase shift to that. So beta d can come out of this fixed waveguide in two cases. In first case, it can be beta d plus 90 degree plus theta m. You are getting this 90 degrees only when the wave is parallel, and if the wave is perpendicular, then you will be having only beta d plus theta m. And now that means at this particular place you are having two components. Beta d plus theta m is one component, beta d plus theta m plus 90 degrees is the another components. So now these two components will move into this particular circular waveguide, whereas this circular waveguide is a rotatable waveguide. So these two components again, while they are passing on to this, they will become four components, because beta d plus theta m that can enter as a parallel one and that can enter as a perpendicular one. There are two components. From beta d plus theta m you will be having two components. From beta d plus theta m plus 90 degrees, this entire combination can result you two components, where so here we can simply say that this rotatable circular waveguide is going to produce two pairs of components, whereas one pair of component will pass in parallel to this particular waveguide, whereas the another pair of the components will go through the circular waveguide as perpendicular to that. So if they are parallel, as it is introducing 90 degrees, this rotatable waveguide will introduce 180 degrees, already having 90 degrees. And if it is parallel to this one also, then it is going to introduce another 180 degrees. So that is how the operation is going to be in rotary vane phase shifters. See, this rotary vane phase shifters, it has a three waveguide sections, two fixed sections and one rotary section. And two fixed sections are quarter wave plates and rotary section is half wave plate. And all the three plates are made up of dielectric material only. So in two fixed quarter wave sections, they are both of them are identical. That means they are going to have the same characteristics and they are going to produce the same amount of phase shift. Just now I have explained it. The fixed type of attenuators, they are going to produce a phase shift of 90 degrees if the wave that is passing through them is parallel to the waveguides. Each of these two fixed sections, they are having internally they are having a phase shift of 45 degrees with the horizontal line. So the length of the plate is selected in such a way that this additional phase shift, as I told you, the fixed is going to produce a phase shift of 90 degrees in case of quarter wave plate, and in case of half wave plate, that is nothing. Half wave plate means it is nothing but your rotatable waveguide that is going to produce a 180 degrees of phase shift. So when a wave with its E vector vertical enters to the fixed phase shifter, then it is going to produce a 90 degrees of phase shift along with a phase shift of beta d. Beta d is the phase shift that a wave is said to have initially before it has been entered into the fixed amount of fixed waveguide. So those two components with a phase difference of 90 can be resolved into further two components, making total of four components, where one pair will be parallel to the half wave plate and another pair will be perpendicular to the half wave plate. So the resultant of pair which is perpendicular to the half wave plate will be having a phase angle of beta d plus theta m, because as it is perpendicular, the rotatable waveguide is not going to produce any kind of phase shift. So when a pair of parallel, so whenever parallel components, whenever components, the two components that are passing on through the rotatable waveguide, if they are parallel, then the middle waveguide is going to produce a phase shift of 180 degrees. So the two components that are parallel and that are perpendicular to the half wave plate while crossing undergoes a phase shift of 2 beta d and 2 beta d plus 180 degrees, resulting in a next phase lag of 3 beta d plus theta m. So like this, when the wave comes out of the second fixed wavegate, the second fixed wavegate, it is at the receiving end, then the total amount of phase shift that is produced by this rotary vane phase shifter is going to be 4bd plus 2 theta m. 4bd plus 2 theta m is the phase shift that was introduced by this rotary vane phase shifter to the wave that has been passed through this particular circuit. So that can be simply represented as E of angle of 4 beta d, E of angle of 4 beta d. So the presence of plates makes the output to have an additional phase shift of 2 theta m. The plates in this particular each and every waveguide, you can observe the dielectric plates, right? So if these plates were not there, then the output signal is going to have a phase shift of E of angle of 4 beta d. As the waveguide is containing, each and every waveguide is containing these dielectric plates, then output signal is going to have a phase shift of E of angle of 4 bd plus 2 theta m. So the output remains vertically polarized, so it can be combined that the phase shifter is lossless and reflectionsless for any positions of the rotary sections. So this is what all about this rotary vane phase shifter. So with this, we are done with the second unit, ma. So in the next class, we'll start the third unit. So before that, as we are left with 20 more minutes, we'll try to solve the problems. Just give me a second. I'll dictate you the problems.
వీళ్ళు మాత్రం ఇంతవరకు తీసుకురావాలి వీళ్ళు అసలే గోల్డ్ ఉంది
C3, can you just tell me, have we solved any problems in second unit?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Just take down the problem, ma'am. We are left with the some 20 minutes time, so we'll finish off at least one or two problems. Take down the problem. In a directional coupler, in a directional coupler, in a directional coupler, incident power is, in a directional coupler, incident power is 1000 milliwatts. Incident power is 1000 milliwatts. Coupler, incident power is 1000 milliwatts at port 1, 1000 milliwatts at port 1, power at port 4, power at port 4, power at port 4 is 10 milliwatts, power at port 4 is 10 milliwatts, power at port 4 is 10 milliwatts, and the power at port 3 is power at port 3 is 1 milliwatt. Power at port 3 is 1 milliwatt. 1 milliwatts. Find, find, find first one. Coupling factor, coupling factor, find coupling factor C, coupling factor C. Second one, directivity D, find coupling factor C. Second one, directivity D, directivity D. Third one, isolation I. Find coupling factor C, directivity D, isolation I. Yeah, this is the problem related to the directional coupler. Turn your pages and first of all note down the formulas related to the coupling factor, directivity and the isolation. We'll give you 2 minutes time. Take down the formulas related to those three. This is the formula related to directional coupler. We are done with the directional coupler long ago. So please turn back your pages and take down the formulas related to those three parameters. Did you get the formulas, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
The formula factor?
10 log base 10 incident power at port 1 by forward coupled power at port 4
Okay.
dB.
So now, do we have incident power and the forward power? Incident power at
We have
port 1 and forward power can be collected at which port?
port 4, ma'am.
Port 4. So in the given problem, do we have the powers at port 1 and port 4?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, substitute those two values and tell me how much do we get the coupling factor.
Twenty, ma'am.
20 dB. Coupling factor will be 20 dB. Then what about the formula for directivity? Directivity.
10 log base 10 forward coupled power by back power at port 3.
Do we have those two values? Forward power and the backward power?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, substitute.
Zero, ma'am.
How much is the forward power that you substituted?
10 milliwatts.
And the backward power?
1 milliwatt.
What is the log 10 value? Is it 0 or 1?
10, ma'am.
Log 10 value will be 1 now. Then it will be 10 dB.
Yes, ma'am.
And isolation, you can directly substitute the values in isolation formula, or else we have the relation for these three parameters, where isolation is equals to coupling factor plus directivity. We can use that formula, or else you can use isolation is equals to 10 log of incident power to back power. We can use these two, any of these two. We have the relation between these three as I is equals to C plus D. As we are having C and D, you can directly substitute that, or else you can go for the general formula of 10 log of incident power to backward power. Did you finish it, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, note down the next problem. In a phase shift measurement, in a phase shift measurement setup, in a phase shift measurement setup, setup without waveguide component, without waveguide component, in a phase shift measurement setup without waveguide component, without waveguide component, the guide wavelength, the wavelength guide wavelength measured is, guide wavelength measured is 7.2 centimeters. Guide wavelength measured is 7.2 centimeters. Guide wavelength measured is 7.2 centimeters, and and the reference null was, and the reference null was at at 10.5 centimeters. Reference null was at 10.5 centimeters with the component, with the component, with the component, with the component, the reference null, with the component, the reference null, the reference null shifted to, with the component, the reference null shifted to 9.3 centimeters. with the null, with the component, the reference null got shifted to 9.3 centimeters. Shifted to 9.3 centimeters. Full stop. Determine determine the phase shift of the component. Determine 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 phase shift of the component. So what is the formula for the phase shift? Beta is equals to phase shift beta is equals to, what is the formula for that? Guys, are you there? What is the formula for phase shift beta? Beta is equals to
2 pi by lambda g, no?
very good, ma. Phase shift beta is equals to 2 pi by lambda g. Actually, that is what we need to calculate. He asked us to calculate the phase shift for a wave. But in the problem statement, he is asking us to calculate the phase shift of the component. He is asking for the phase shift of the component. And along with the lambda g, the guide wavelength lambda g is given as 7.2 centimeters. So along with this, they have provided two values. One value is without component. They have given some reference value, one value with without component and another value with component. So now the formula for phase shift will be 2 pi by lambda g into path difference. The phase shift formula will be 2 pi by lambda g into path difference. And what is the path difference? The difference between those two values, the difference between 10.5 and 9.3, that will give you the path difference. And you know the lambda g value. So now you tell me how much are we going to get the phase shift. The formula for phase shift is 2 pi by lambda g. Here they have given two values, with component and without component. Take the difference of those two components and multiply that difference with 2 pi by lambda g. We'll get the phase shift. Tell me how much are we going to get.
1.04.
Phase shift you are going to get it as, do it properly, ma. Here we need to get the phase shift. So what do you substitute in the place of pi? While you are calculating the angles, what is the value of pi? Pi is equals to,
180.
yes, you need to substitute pi value 180 because here we are calculating the phase shift. So here we can't take pi value as 3.14. We need to consider pi as 180 degrees. Guys, please unmute yourself. Ma, did you get the answer?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did you get?
60.
That's correct, ma. Nice. Note down the another problem. A 90 watts power source, 90 watts power source, 90 watts power source is connected, 90 watts power source is connected to the input of directional coupler. 90 watts power source is connected to the input of directional coupler, to the input of directional coupler with with C is equals to 20 dB, with C is equals to 20 dB, D is equals to 35 dB, D is equals to 35 dB, and and an insertion loss, and an insertion loss of 0.5 dB, and an insertion loss of 0.5 dB, 0.5 dB. Find the output powers, find the output powers, at at find the output powers at coupled and isolated, at coupled and isolated ports, at coupled and isolated ports. So here coupling factor is given, directivity is given, and the isolation is given. C, D, I. These three values are given, and he is asking us to calculate the powers, backward power and the forward power. He is asking us to calculate, and the incident power PI is given as 90 watts. Incident power PI is given as 90 watts. You try to solve this problem at your home. If you did get in the next class, we'll look into it. The clues for this is C value is given, D value is given, I value is also given, and the incident power PI is also given. So we need to calculate the remaining three powers: backward power, reverse power, and the forward power. PR, PB, and PF. These three parameters we need to calculate. So with this, I'm going to wind off today's session, ma.